Yoma Daf. Today's first email comes from שלמה from Crown Heights. He says, all kidding aside, I'm one of those that are embarrassed and at the same time proud to say I finished Sfira Sa'ima for the first time in my life with a bracha, a big part of which was thanks to you and the MDY crew. The Havas Yisrael combined with the Havas HaTorah of our Chabura is surely bringing Nachas to the Rebbeinu Shleilam and is a true dugma chaya for Klal Yisrael. Best wishes for a safe and healthy summer with love and admiration, your Talmud Shlomi Klein, Crown Heights. And this one is from Abrameir Farkovitz from the Five Towns. My wife would post MDY sphere notices on her status, and at least 5 people told her that they only made it to 49 because of her post, just another MDY public service. And here's a coined phrase: keep on daffing. Abrameir Farkovitz. So Yoma Daf, and I got the Gemara. The Gemara tells us, it says in the pasuk, "Im leitzim hu yolitz." If a person wants to associate himself with leitzim, fine, we'll let him do so. However, if a person wants to associate himself with humble people, we will actually help him. Like it says, if you want to become tar, we'll help you. But if you want to become tameh, we'll just open the door. The mashal is a person who sells kerosene and a farsamoin, good smelling balsam. If somebody comes to buy the kerosene, he says, you take it, self-service, do it yourself. But the farsamoin will help him because he wants to smell good. Any other person does is metamtim the leiv. As it says in the pasuk, it says without an aleph, so we read it v'nitamtem. If a person causes himself a little bit of tumah, we allow him, the Shemaim allows him to become more tameh, and he'll become tameh above and in olam haba. But the opposite is true with kedusha. If you mekadosh yourself just a little bit, they'll give you a lot of kedusha. They'll be mekadosh you up above and in olam haba. And with that, we finish Amar Lahem HaMemuna. That's the third parak, and now we're going to begin the fourth parak. It's called Tarf Bekalpi. We're talking about the 2 goats that one goes Lazazel, you push off a cliff, the other you shech as a chatos, and they were chosen through a girl, through a lottery. The Kohen Gadol has to do it really quickly, has to stick his hand in and grab, because so he shouldn't feel around and feel which one is what. The box was made out of wood, and it could only contain 2 hands. That's it. That was the size. It doesn't have any kedusha. It was made and bought with money, just regular chayil money, not kaddish money. And it wasn't made out of gold because the Torah wanted to make sure that Klal Yisrael doesn't spend unnecessary money. The Kohen Gadol takes one that says La Hashem and the other one that says La Azazel. If it came out in his right hand, La Hashem, so the Zgan HaKohanim that's standing to the right of the Kohen Gadol, he says, Ishi Kohen Gadol, Hagbe Yimincha, lift up your right hand. And if it's the left hand that pulled out La Hashem, so the one standing to his left, which is the Rosh Beis Av, he says, Hagbe Yismolcha, lift up your left hand. And then he takes the 2 goyrelos and he puts it on the goats. And he says, La Hashem Chatos. So he establishes, that's how he makes that one a Chatos. Rabbi Shmuel says you don't have to say La Hashem Chatos, you just say La Hashem without the word Chatos. And everybody that hears the Shem Hashem answers Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusai. Rabbi Yehuda holds that all the avodas in the Beis Hamikdash were done with the right hand. So the Kohen Gadol only takes one lottery with his right hand, and this Gan, he helps him out, and he takes the second one with his right hand, so everything's done with the right. If this Gan has La Hashem in his hand, so the Rosh Beis Av tells the Kohen Gadol, you announce La Hashem Chatos. But our Tana in the Mishnah is going like Reb Chanina's Gan HaKohanim, that the Avodah was done only by the Kohen Gadol, and this Gan Kohen Gadol just stands there just in case something would happen to the Kohen Gadol. But he himself doesn't do anything that has to do with the Avodah, so certainly he wouldn't help him out in the Geirah. The 40 years that Shimon HaTzadik was a Kohen Gadol in Bayit Sheni, all 40 years, every single time the Kohen Gadol stuck his right hand out, he was able to pull out La Hashem. And the red string that goes on the goat that gets pushed off would change from red to white to show that Hakadosh Baruch Hu forgave the avonos. The western candle, it's either the center one or, according to another Mando Amar, it's the second one, would light a lot longer than the other ones, even though it had the same amount of oil. The Atzim Arocha that the Kohanim brought would overcome and keep on burning. You didn't have to bring more wood, besides the Shtei Gzira Eitzim that you bring once in the morning, once in the evening, because that's a special mitzvah to bring. But once Shimon HaTzadik was nifter, some years it went this way, some years it went that way. But the 40 years before the Churban was exactly the opposite. when the Kohen Gadol put his hand in for the Goyrel, he got the Azazel in his right hand. The red string would not turn to be white. The Ner Ma'aravi would not light longer than the rest of the candles. And the doors of the Heichal would just open up randomly on their own. In other words, to invite the enemy in. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai screamed at the doors. He said, I understand that you're supposed to open up and let the enemy in, but you're 40 years early. And they stopped. By Shimon HaTzadik, when a Kohen would eat a kazayas of the Omer or the Shnei Lechem or from Lechem Apanim, he would be satiated right away, wouldn't even have to eat a full kazayas. But today, there's a klala, and each Kohen would get only the size of a bean, and it wouldn't satiate them. The Tznuim saw what's going on. They said, we don't want this. And the fressers, the gargaronim, would chap more. There's once a person who took from somebody else that took from someone, and they called him a chamtzan. Chamtzan means a gazlan. The Gemara brings psukim to prove that a chamtzan is a gazlan. The year that Shimon HaTzadik died, he predicted that he's going to die, and he said, every year there's an older person who comes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim with me. He's wearing white, and he has a white hat, and he would come in with me and go out. And this year he was wearing black, and he went in and didn't come out. To Raya, I'm not going to live. The Taisis Shalom says, you're not going to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, not even a malach. This must be that it was the covet of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that walked in. And he died 7 days after Sukkot. And from that day on, from the day Shimon HaTzadik died, they stopped saying Birkas Kehanim with Shem Hashem. The Beis HaMikdash has a number of names. One of them is Levanon, and it means that Klal Yisrael's Averos become white through the Beis HaMikdash. The same pasuk, Yar Levanon, a forest, that the fruit bloom. Shlomo HaMelech planted trees made out of gold, and they would bloom, and they would make noise when they bumped into each other, and the wind would come and blow them off the trees, and the Kohanim would be misparnas with those golden fruit. When the enemy came into Beis HaMikdash, they dried up. They no longer were gold, but they are going to come back. La'asad lavai. There are 10 times where the Kohen Gadol mentions Hashem's name in its full form. 3 times in the first vidui, 3 times in the second vidui, and 3 times when he does the vidui in the Sar HaMishalech, and 1, as we said, La Hashem Chatas by the Goyra. They once heard the Shem Hashem all the way to Yericho, which was 10 paras away. They heard the screeching of the hinge of the door 16,000 amas away, which is 8 tchumim away. The smell of the Torah was so strong that women all the way in Yericho didn't have to wear any perfume, and a kala who wears more perfume than a typical woman didn't have to wear perfume in Yerushalayim. And this is very interesting. The goats in Yericho would sneeze from the smell of Torah. That's how strong it was. And there was an elderly person who says, I smelled the smell of Torah in the walls of Shiloh where the Mishkan was, and it was there 1,000 years before, but the Reach remained in the walls. Have a wonderful day.